Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon O'Reilly, and I am a senior product specialist for Altmetric and Dimensions, which are part of digital science. And today I'm going to be focusing on the Altmetric part of my role, specifically how alternative metrics can be used responsibly and contribute to the discovery, as well as the demonstration of research impact. So, what are alternative metrics? Alternative metrics are indicators of non-traditional attention and engagement with digitally published research and scholarship. Traditional attention being bibliometrics or citation-based metrics. Non-traditional attention, when we're talking about it here, is how people are sharing and engaging with scholarly research online. This can take multiple forms. It can be a tweet, it can be a news article or a blog post, a Wikipedia citation, or maybe it's a policy or patent mention. Altmetrics are composed of data that looks at the volume and nature of this online attention, potentially providing evidence of the diverse audiences of research as well as its potential impact. I will say that altmetrics are not meant to be a replacement for bibliometrics, but rather a complement. So where do alternative metrics come into discussion of research impact? Well, first, it's helpful to define impact. I won't spend long on here, as Cherry and Melinda already did a great job defining what this is, but the part I want to focus on really is this beyond academia. But first, when we talk about showing impact beyond academia, we need to keep in mind that dissemination is not impact. When showing evidence of impact, we need to go beyond citations, beyond the altmetric attention score, beyond the number of tweets, downloads, views, and clicks. Rather, we need to ask questions like, what happened next? Or what changed? Or who did this help? And present it with qualitative evidence. We need to move away from that knee-jerk reaction of reporting high numbers and saying, my research was cited X number of times, or my research had an altmetric attention score of X. Because what do those numbers actually mean? They are proxies to impact, but they aren't impact itself. So in short, altmetric does not equal impact. However, altmetrics can help bridge the gap between research and impact. Altmetric data can be the bridge, pathway, breadcrumbs to locate and underpin impact. It can start with a tweet, a news article, a policy citation, a patent. At Altmetric, we track many different sources of attention. Policy and patent mentions are two of the more concrete ways to find impact beyond academia because they're more likely to provide clear evidence that research is leading to change in guidelines, new innovations, and really just the general translation of science. But you can also discover pathways through mass media mentions and social media as potential evidence of public engagement and public discourse around research. So what does this look like in action? An area of focus for altmetric and digital science is the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which we'll be going through a little bit deeper this afternoon. But it's a collection of 17 interlinked objectives designed to serve as a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet. Here we have a dashboard that's built on Google Data Studio using altmetric and dimensions data. I don't have time to walk through it right now, but what you'll see here is that this is another way to be able to find insights. It offers a level of flexibility. You could also use tools like Altmetric Explorer. I used this dashboard to find research that was categorized under 6 sustainable development goals around climate change and the environment that had policy mentions. I found this Nature Sustainability article, a spatial overview of the global importance of indigenous lands for conservation. We can see on the left, or some of you may not be able to see, but that we picked up some mentions in news, blogs, 9 policy mentions, lots of tweets, and this article also has a pretty high altmetric attention score as well. But as I said earlier, it's not only just about the numbers, it's worth diving into what do these mentions actually say, where are they coming from, and what happened next. So as I looked through the policy mentions, I found that this research article was mentioned in a 2022 report, Forests for a Better World, by the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, FAO. This report outlines the FAO strategic framework for 2022 to 2031 and ties back to the 2030 agenda set by the SDGs. You'll see this framework focuses on the future and agriculture with a note on scaling up efforts to support 25 million small-scale farmers, including indigenous peoples, to improve livelihoods and increase access to resources. The article is directly cited as evidence for how indigenous peoples are the primary stewards and custodians of environmental health and species diversity, and that it's critical they are protected and supported. For me personally, this is an indicator that this research was contributing to not only a conversation, but a framework, a call to action for resources in support of indigenous people conserving Earth's land and its species. And I find that this is a much more effective way to show the impact of this research rather than just saying 9 policy mentions. The article was also mentioned in local, national, and international news and blogs as evidence for how indigenous nations and governments can lead the way for protecting the environment. Arguably, here, I would say that the research is helping the media inform society of indigenous people's important role in conservation, both on a national, local, and international level, but it's also leading towards calls to action. And we can see this with editorial pieces, opinion pieces, and even a podcast. We also see mentions in social media, in this case, Twitter. We can see what people are saying about the research, how they're saying it, and who they're saying it to. Again, really important to dive into that qualitative data rather than just listing numbers. The size of their audience through the number of followers can also be a really important indicator of virality, what's happening within the public discourse and how influential these individuals are. And we can also get an idea of the sentiment happening around this conversation, and all of it linking back to our research article. So this was a very quick example of how you could show the evidence of a researcher's impact using altmetrics and diving into that qualitative data, especially as we consider showing impact that goes beyond academia. Defining impact is complex and can vary slightly by person and organization. We'll see lots of different definitions of impact, but all of them kind of come in from the same pillars. But not only do we have to be critical in terms of the way we define impact, but also how we reframe how we show impact. So going back to our questions earlier of what happened next, or what changed, or who did this help, then provide specific evidence and craft an impact narrative rather than relying purely on numbers and dissemination. Thank you.